Well, hello, all my amazingly beautiful zodiac family and friends. My name is Libra Empress, and this is another episode of Terror and Tarot with Libra Empress. Today we are going to be watching 3 McDonald's horror stories animated by IMR Scary Tales. Without further ado, let's get started.
I recently took a job at McDonald's. A few days back, I was appointed for an overnight shift. My house was close to the McDonald's store, so I was hardly worried about reaching home late. Also, I'm in my late 20s and have been living independently for quite a long time. My work was basically at the front counter. It was 10:30 p.m. already, and there were 4 to 5 people in the restaurant. This is a small outlet of McDonald's, hence very few people work here, especially in night shifts. The one in charge has to take care of things by themselves. Though the overnight shift runs from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., but our outlet, we hardly get orders after 12 p.m. to 5 a.m. in the morning. So my plan was to lie down on the couch in the resting area after the customers left. Everything was going according to plan. 3 customers paid their bills and left. But there was one customer who stood up once, but then sat down again. I asked in a hesitant voice, Sir, do you need anything?" He looked at me with a very weird smile and shook his head in a no gesture. There was nothing more I could do, so I sat down on the counter seat and started scrolling my YouTube feed. With every moment passing by, I could tell the guy was looking at me with wide eyes. He seemed a bit younger to me, probably in his early 20s, but his behavior was becoming very creepy. 2 to 3 times, I stared back at him out of irritation, and he awkwardly looked away. I murmured to myself, saying, "Jerk, why can't he just leave?" But the guy didn't move 1 inch from his seat. 20 minutes passed away like this. He was done with his food, but still, he kept sitting there. At one point, I lost my patience and asked him, "Sir, do you need anything more?" The guy looked at me and said, No. No thanks. I am good." Now, I can't just tell him to leave randomly because the restaurant is basically open for the entire night. There was nothing else I could do. After 5 minutes more, the guy finally stood up and started to walk towards the counter. I said in my head, "Good Lord, finally he's leaving." After he reached the counter, out of a relieving feeling, I gave him a big smile and started his billing. The guy smiled back at me in a tense way and kept standing there. I handed him over the bill and his credit card when he said something way weird. "Is that a tattoo on your neck?" I do have a mermaid tattoo on my neck, so I replied awkwardly, "Yeah, right." The man was supposed to leave, but instead, he started chatting with me, which kind of surprised me. He then said, "I am also thinking of getting a tattoo, but haven't found a good tattoo artist yet. From where did you get yours?" I can't say he was being offensive, but this unnecessary curiosity at that time of the night felt very off-putting. I said in an uninterested tone, I got it when I was in college, so don't probably remember." I started to arrange the counter, hoping he would leave, but the man still stood there. He then got really close to my face and said, "Hey, I sketch for a hobby. My sketchbook is in my car. Want to come take a look?" I was highly surprised to see his adamant behavior. I said in an irritated tone, No thanks, I have my duty to finish." The man now grasped my hand and said, "No, you should really come with me. You are anyway free now," and started giving the same tense smile. Now, this move threw me off the hook. I said in an extremely angry voice, "Listen, you freak, I don't want to go with you. If you don't leave right this moment, I will call the owner, and there are security cameras all over this place. So what's it gonna be?" And kept staring at him with angry eyes. The man let go of my hand immediately and then walked towards his table. He stood there, facing his back at me for some time. I couldn't tell what he was doing, so I yelled once again, "Did you get what I said?" The guy then turned at me and left the restaurant quietly. As soon as he got out, I went and locked the entrance of the restaurant with my keys. My head was burning like a fireplace. It took me a few seconds to calm down. I decided to report about this creepy customer tomorrow, first thing in the morning. The store was finally quiet. I heaved a sigh of relief and went to clean his table. I was picking up his trays when a shadow moved behind me. I turned back and saw the same guy standing outside the door with a fearful face. I was about to burst out this time, but the guy gestured to keep quiet and pointed at the tray in my hand. Before I could understand what the hell he was doing, my eyes went to his tray in my hand. There was a folded napkin on it. As I unfolded the napkin, the blood inside my veins froze in fear. The napkin read, "A man is sitting on the vent above your counter. Don't look, just come out quietly." I was fucking scared because I don't know what I was supposed to do right now. I have to go to the counter anyway because my phone is there. I slowly took the plate, dumped it into the bin, and started walking towards the counter. As I reached underneath the vent, I grabbed my phone. I know I should not have looked up, but out of curiosity and tension, I couldn't stop myself. As I lifted my head slightly and looked at the vent, my brain stopped working. I saw a pair of terrifying eyes looking right back at me. I screamed like hell and ran for my life. My hands were shaking heavily while I tried to unlock the door with a key. And before I could do so, I heard a huge thud, as if someone fell to the ground from a higher place. I looked back and saw a devilish figure standing on the counter like a frog and making a grunting noise like some hungry animal. I screamed even louder and somehow managed to open the door. As soon as I came out, the guy outside pulled me out and we both slammed the door. The guy already had a shovel in his hand. He blocked the door with that. I couldn't breathe for a few seconds. By this time, the evil-looking man started to slam on the door, whispering something inaudible. It was evident from his behavior that he is not in a good shape. The man was acting like a crazy person. He then started to ransack the entire McDonald's store like a wolf caught inside a cage. I immediately called the cops and the owner. The guy looked at me and said, "I am Alan, and I'm sorry, but trust me, I didn't mean to scare you. I was ready to leave when I realized I had forgotten my phone at home. Just then, my eyes went to the vent above your computer, and I saw a human figure standing there and looking at you. There was no other way for me to let you know about this because I myself had no idea if this person had weapons with them or not." Alan took a pause and started to breathe heavily. I broke into tears, realizing how horrible it would have been if Alan actually left me alone all this entire night with this crazy person. The cops came and arrested the man in the vent. It came to know that it was a homeless person who somehow sneaked into the restaurant. I am sure this person had some very bad intentions, and also his state of mind was really messed up, which I could tell from his reaction after getting caught. So, Alan, thank you again for saving my life that day, even though I was being really rude to you. And I just want to say to the man leaving in the vent of McDonald's, may we never, ever meet. Hi, I am Eddie. I am currently in junior high. I have two friends named Max and Jim. They are not only my school friends, we live in the same locality too. Max has a habit of mocking people. I know it's not nice, but he sometimes ends up bullying school kids. We often told him to change his behavior, but he ignored our advice. As he has always been a good friend by stepping up in our troubled times, we tolerated his mocking behavior so far, until this recent incident took place. Last month, we went to the city mall to have some fun. After playing video games in the game zone, we all got hungry and decided to grab a bite at McDonald's. After entering the store, we ordered some fries and burgers and sat down at a nearby table. It was probably some special offer day. There were lots of combos and discounts going on the food items. There was also a man dressed as the McDonald Joker, standing at the entrance, welcoming the guest inside. The Joker was making funny faces and giving balloons to little kids. Jim said, "Remember when Max was a little kid? He once started crying seeing a McDonald's Joker. I still recall his freaked out face." And we started to laugh. The joke was made in a very light tone, but Max didn't take it easy. Max replied, "I was scared, you jackass. I was annoyed to see a guy dressed in a bizarre way hopping like a monkey." Jim said, "Yeah, right." As if we weren't there. I didn't want to start a fight, so I shifted the conversation onto some other topic. We finished our meal and got up to pay. While we were leaving the store, we came near the Joker standing at the gateway. The Joker offered us 3 balloons, probably out of a kind gesture, but Max crossed his limit like always. He busted one of the 3 balloons and replied, "Do I seem like a little kid to you? And you are not even funny, douchebag." I saw the Joker's face changing immediately. His eyes opened widely and a grin appeared. I could tell from the Joker's face that he held back his anger. Maybe he did so because it was a public place or to save his job, and said in a squeaky voice, "I'll see you again." Max was going to say something more, but this time I grabbed his hand. We left McDonald's immediately. After coming out of the mall, I hurled on Max saying, "What's your problem, dude? We were just joking." Jim agreed with me and said, "Yeah, Max, this is really not the way to talk to people, you know?" Max obviously showed us attitude and left on his own. Jim and I stood there for a while, seeing Max walking in the opposite direction. Jim then said, "Let's go, Drake. He will come back once he cools off." We returned to our houses too. The next day at school, Jim and I were talking in the hallway. Suddenly, Max came and patted our backs. We gave him an awkward smile. Max said in a carefree tone, Okay. I am sorry. Now, can we go for lunch?" The matter got resolved, and we went for lunch. We decided to go to the amusement park that put up a weekend fair for the town people. There were rides and various stalls. We were enjoying the fair when a corner of the ground caught my attention. There was a small truck of McDonald's at the fair, selling burgers and fries at the fair. I excitedly told Jim and Max, "Hey, look, let's go grab some snacks from there before leaving for home." We 3 walked towards the cart and bought our food. As soon as we turned back, I got goosebumps. The Joker guy was standing in front of us with a creepy smile. We looked at each other's faces in surprise and discomfort. The Joker then turned to Max and said, Well, we meet again." I could tell from Max's face that he was a bit freaked out. He said in a hesitant voice, "Yeah, whatever. Come on, guys, it's time to go home." We started to walk towards the exit of the park. Jim said in a panicked voice, "Is he still looking at us?" I turned back and saw the Joker smiling. I said in an awkward voice, Let's just keep walking." After reaching the main gate, we all turned back, but the Joker was not there anymore. Max replied, "What a creep." I would have been relieved if the night ended this way. The townspeople were busy at the fair, so most of the streets were empty. The moonlight and crickets chirping around made the walk even scarier. The only thing going on in my mind was this creepy encounter. I couldn't help but think that it was the same guy from the mall that day because he remembered us. My heart was hoping that he wasn't following us. We were constantly checking our back, but apart from the 3 of us, there wasn't a single person on the road. We took a left turn for a shortcut, which led to a narrow alley joining our neighborhood and the main streets together. As we turned into the alley, we heard footsteps. We immediately turned back, but didn't see anyone. Needless to say, we started to freak out now and decided to walk even faster. But as soon as we turned forward, our heart stopped beating. There was a figure dressed in McDonald's Joker's clothes obstructing our way. There was a 10 to 15 hands distance between us and him. He giggled and said, "What did you call me that day?" Now, Max was covered in sweat. He said in a stuttering voice, Don't you dare hurt us, you freak! Step out of our way or I will. The Joker replied in the same chuckling tone, "Or you will what?" and started laughing like a maniac. Jim and I were equally freaked out, but we didn't see any weapons with this guy. We were just thinking what our next move should be when Max did something extremely dangerous. He picked up an empty beer bottle lying in the alley and threw it on the Joker's face. The bottle hit so hard on his face that it shattered into pieces. I screamed in horror, saying, "Oh God, Max, what have you done?" Max said in a firm voice, "How's that, you fucking creep?" The Joker stood there silently. He didn't scream, didn't walk away. He stood there like a statue and started to sob like a child. Blood was dripping from his forehead. I said in a tensed voice, Please, let us take you to the hospital. It's all a misunderstanding. Listen. But the Joker lifted his face, and his sobbing turned into psychotic laughter. He then picked up some of the broken glass from the ground and said in a spine-chilling voice, "You want to see something funny? Max." Our eyes got wide open. Our hearts were beating like a wild horse. We had no clue what he is up to now. Max was trembling in terror. His eyes were fixed at the Joker. The Joker then shoved the broken glass inside his mouth and started chewing it. I don't know how I should explain this, but that was the most frightening sight I might be going to witness in my life. The sound of broken glass getting smashed by his teeth and the flesh ravaged by the sharp pieces of glass made my heart skip to my throat. Blood was dripping from his mouth, but he kept chewing as if it were just mere food. He then started to laugh and say, "Am I funny for you now? Am I, Max?" Jim said in a terrified voice, "Guys, run, run!" We started running towards the direction of the fair again. We didn't look back because the Joker's laughter was still coming from our back. Gasping and panting, we reached near the fair. A few local people rushed towards us. Max was in tears, and we were completely freaked out. Our parents were informed, and we safely reached home. My dad filed a complaint at the police station. They still haven't caught the guy. The cops asked the McDonald's owner about the Joker's whereabouts. The owner said that they only had his number, but the number is in switched off mode till now. I wonder, where's this guy now, and in what shape? Hi, I am Sarah. I was raised in a foster home with 3 other children. Needless to say, an orphan's childhood can get pretty tough comparing to other kids sometimes. Miss Lestrange, who took care of us, was not a very nice lady. She used to starve us and compel us to work chores in local stores to make her money. We lived in a dingy suburb where people hardly cared about each other. The standard of living in our locality wasn't healthy at all. Homeless people were living all on the alleys, and all sorts of crimes were happening every now and then. There was a boy named Robbie who also lived with me. Robbie and I were of the same age back then. Whenever we saved money for ourselves, we used to go to the local McDonald's shop secretly. One day, Robbie and I were sitting at McDonald's waiting for our food to arrive. Suddenly, Robbie said, "Look, it's him." He pointed towards a table nearby. There was a tall, bony guy sitting at the table. I have seen that guy earlier from our locality. He looked at us with a serious face and then again got busy on his phone. I told Robbie in a low voice, "Do you think he's going to tell Miss Lestrange about us?" Robbie laughed and replied, "Come on, Sarah. He's a drug dealer. He's way busier than you and me." Even though we had a tough life, Robbie has always been a cheerful boy. It wasn't evident that this guy was into dealing drugs, but we saw him picked up by cops many times from our living room window. When we finished our meal, we headed back home. A week passed and Miss Lestrange fell ill due to fever, so we were all relieved from her torture for a while. We didn't have to pay her for a week, as her boyfriend used to come and take care of her for some hours every day. That man was nice to us. One night, everyone was sleeping and Robbie and I ate very little that day. The 2 other kids were a lot younger than us, so we gave most of our food to them. Around 12 a.m., Robbie woke me up and said, "Sarah, I am feeling very hungry. Let's go to the McDonald's shop nearby." Eating too much junk food wasn't good, but McDonald's is the only food store that is open 24/7. It was in our budget, too. I got up from the bed and we sneaked out of the house. The suburb is more prone to criminal activity at this hour, but we had no other ways. We chose to walk from the middle of the street to avoid any dark corner. Many kids in our area get abducted and trafficked by criminal gangs. After a trouble-free 10 minutes walk, we reached the McDonald's store. The store had no other customers. We entered and walked towards the counter. There was no one at the counter as well. Robbie said in a low voice, "Anyone here to take our order?" Suddenly, a deep, coarse voice came from the back. "What do you kids need?" The voice shook us immediately, and we turned around in fear. It was that bony, tall guy wearing a McDonald's employee costume. He probably went out for a smoke, because as soon as he entered the shop, a foul smell of burnt cigarettes grabbed the air. I said in a hesitant voice, we would like to... The guy slowly walked towards the counter and handed us the menu chart. I got a bit scared, so I fumbled. Robbie ordered some burgers and fries. The guy told us, "Go sit there. I'll bring over the food." We quietly went to sit at the table near the corner. Robbie started saying, "God knows when we'll be able to get out of this place. Sometimes I feel really angry with my parents who left me on the road to living a life like this." The guy was wearing a McDonald's cap, so I couldn't see his eyes, but it felt like he was listening to our talks. After a few more minutes, the guy brought us the food with 2 cups of Sprite and said, "Eat. The food is on me." Robbie and I were not at all ready for such a kind gesture from a guy like that, but it felt like we ended up assuming a lot of negative things about people before we really know them. We finished our meal and stood up to leave. The guy came to take our plates and said, "How many of you live with Miss Lestrange?" Robbie said, "Right now, there's 4 of us, but there was a girl of 16 years ago. Miss Lestrange says she ran away. She was pregnant too." The guy's face changed color immediately, and his voice got angry too. He said, "Millie didn't run away. That old hag killed her." Even though we were 10 years old, we knew what he meant, and our face turned pale. I could tell from his angry eyes that he hated Miss Lestrange the most. He then said a very surprising thing which creeped both of us. He took off his cap and said with a firm voice, "Do you guys want to get out of here? Do you want her to get punished for what she does to you?" I don't know why tears rolled down my eyes, and Robbie replied in a sad face, "She is never nice to us. But where can we go?" The guy didn't say anything. He went back to the computer and told us to go home. That entire night, I couldn't sleep. Robbie asked me the next day, "Do you think that McDonald guy can help us?" I looked at him with worried eyes and said, "Robbie, are you insane? That guy is a criminal himself. What if we get into more problems because of him?" Robbie nodded his head, and we headed out for work that day. Around 5 p.m. we were coming back. The porch light of our house was visible from the streets. In the light, I saw a McDonald's guy handing over food to Miss Lestrange, who recovered a bit by this time. She took the food and paid the guy. As we came close to the house, we realized it was that same bony guy. He smirked at us and left. I ran inside with Robbie and asked Miss Lestrange what was he doing here, to which she replied in a very irritated manner, "Delivering food. Are you blind?" I didn't say anything more. She then sat down on the living room couch and started eating her burger while watching TV. I came back to my room. Everything was going as usual when suddenly a younger boy named Joe started crying, saying, "Miss Lestrange is coughing blood." Robbie and I immediately heard that and ran downstairs. It was a vicious sight to witness for 2 10-year-olds and 2 6-year-olds. We stood there with white gasping eyes and saw Miss Lestrange spitting blood all over the couch while choking with food inside her mouth. She was coughing terribly, as if not being able to breathe. What happened next was definitely not our plan, but till today, whenever Robbie and I discuss that incident, he tells me it happened for our own good. Miss Lestrange looked at us and said in a choking voice, Call 911. Call 911. I was about to run towards the phone when Robbie grabbed my hand tightly. I said in a tensed voice, "What are you doing? We must call for help." He pulled my hand even tighter and said, "Take Joe and Kitty to their rooms right now." I couldn't believe it was coming out of Robbie's mouth. I said in a horrified voice, "But Robbie, she is going to die." He screamed at me this time and said, "Do as I said." Out of panic and shock, I did what he said. As we walked out of the room, we heard the choking sound become more intense and louder. I put Joe and Kitty to sleep, saying we are going to take Miss Lestrange to the hospital. Then I rushed back to the living room and saw Robbie standing at the doorway, talking to someone. I peeked to see who it was, and yes, it was the guy who delivered her food from McDonald's. Robbie came to me and said, "We are going to take her to the hospital. You stay here with the kids." Then he came inside to pick up Miss Lestrange. Suddenly, my eyes went to the name tag of this guy, and his name read, Mark Davis. They went out with Miss Lestrange, who wasn't responding at all. Robbie came back the next morning. Mark Davis shifted to our house, and he took care of us until we moved out on our own. He still lives there, and Robbie visits him often. I don't know what happened to Miss Lestrange, and I never asked him. Our life got a bit easier after she went away. Today is my 20th birthday, and Robbie has sent me a beautiful birthday cake and some gifts online with his first salary. He is the nicest friend one can have. I was going to throw away the parcel box just when my eyes went on the bill. There was a small note written on it. Happy birthday, Sarah. A small gift from your friend, Robert Davis.
Well, that was interesting. That was 3 McDonald's horror stories animated by IMR. So during that, I pulled 5 cards from the dead spread. And here's what I got, is that whoever we're connecting to tonight is someone who comes at things from a new approach. Right? He's very ingenious, inventive. Asking them to look back on their life, the card that comes up is the Empress in reverse, which tells me that they were either being very smothered or they were the ones who smothered. Does that make sense? Like very over motherly, whether they're male or female. The lesson I'd like to share is, well, they wish they were able to look in the mirror and reflect on who they were and their toxic vices. So that's one thing they wanted to share. Now, something that they wish they'd paid more attention to in life would have been the fact that they were blessed with a lot of less burdens. All right, they weren't juggling or struggling as much as someone else would have been. So, they were blessed in that sense. Now, the message they'd like to give you is this, is that, you're going to feel defeat on occasion and bickering, and you're going to be severing ties. That's just how it is. But be careful who you sever your ties from. All right? All right, I love you all. Thank you so much for listening to me. My name is Libra Empress. Please don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and share, and I will see you for next week's Tarot and Tarot. Stay safe. Love you. Bye.